I've been lucky enough to see them in person. I actually got to meet Eddie, the bald guy. I got called out in a game of Simon Says once, playing with him, and yeah, it was pretty fun. But they're awesome. They do a lot of youth events, and pretty inspiring just to take a look at the Bible and see, wow, this book is really full of a lot of good stuff. So if you aren't in the Bible or reading it, check it out. It's a great book. So I was thinking the other day. This was the first Christmas season that I was personally able to decorate the house, my house, with Christmas lights, the way that I wanted to do it. Sure, when I was younger, I helped my parents decorate their house because, I wanted to help them. But there was this precedence that had gone before me on how to set it up. So I just helped them because they needed help doing it. And then for the last 6 years of my life, I either lived on my college campus at CCU or in an apartment or house with roommates. And in both of those circumstances, my roommates had the say on how to decorate the house because they are the ones who had invested in Christmas lights and Christmas decorations because I didn't have any at that point. So they got to decorate the house the way that they wanted. And I figured I'd invest in Christmas lights and Christmas decorations when I had my own house to decorate. And this was the year. You see, my wife Katie and I, we both love Christmas and we love decorating, but we quickly realized neither of us really had a lot of Christmas decorations. In fact, we owned no exterior lights, very little inside decorations, and this is to be expected. We're 7 months into marriage. It's our first Christmas. We don't necessarily have a lot of Christmas decorations. And most couples our age don't have a lot of Christmas decorations to start off. And the fact that we didn't have all of these things, that wasn't the problem. You see, the problem, well, it came from the fact that we wanted to have all of the Christmas decorations. We wanted all of them. Everything in the store that they had to offer regarding Christmas. And then when it came to decorate the inside of the house, I had to put a limit on our spending on how much we would spend for the inside decorations. And then when it came to decorating the exterior with the lights, she had to put a limit on me onto how much we spent to buy lights. We were like kids at a candy store, at Walmart, at Home Depot, and the mall as we walked through the aisles looking at all the Christmas decorations. We wanted to light our house up. We wanted our house to stand out from the rest in our neighborhood. And to be honest, we did a pretty good job with our budget. We may have exceeded it just a tid, just a little bit. And even though it was our first year of marriage, we did a pretty good job. Our whole roof was lit up with a cross in the middle of it. Our fences were lined with lights. And the interior of our house gave off a good Christmas cheer. And my desire, I know this isn't everybody's desire, but my desire is for our house to have viewing hours because it's such a beacon of hope and light in our community. I want to be the 10-cup house. And raise your hand if you know the 10-cup house, right? Okay? It's a famous house in Broomfield that unfortunately they don't do it anymore, but it's a house that lit up and gave cheer to the Broomfield community. I want our house to shine and give hope to everyone who comes and sees it. Because isn't that what happens when you see a house that's lit up? When there's a house that's decorated really well and lit up, you want to come and stop and look at it and just gander. Wow, that's a nice house. It makes you want to go and find more houses like that are just as good. And growing up, my family and I, we would drive around looking for houses in the Broomfield area that were lit up. And it was a tradition we had each year. And for the last 4 years, Katie and I have done the same thing. And it's something I look forward to every year. It brings such joy to my life during this time of year. There's something special about going to see all of the Christmas lights that people put up to illuminate their house. Now, some of you may have guessed where I'm going with this. Okay, but I think Christmas lights and decorations are an accurate depiction of our hearts and our world. Now, I don't know about you, but when it comes to taking down Christmas lights each year, it saddens my heart. I love having our house lit up. It just brings a little extra joy and hope in my life. And we're now at that point in the year where people are now considering to take down their lights and decorations or have already done that. So let's do a quick poll, okay? I need your interaction here. Raise your hand if you have already taken down your Christmas lights and decorations. Okay, look around. Look around. Keep those hands in the air. All right, I'd say that's probably 65-ish%. Raise your hand if you've not taken down your Christmas decorations or lights yet. Okay? That would be included in me. Okay? That's about a third of it. Now, on average, I'd say that the common time to take down lights is right around now. But I'm going to make it a little more personal. I want you guys to talk out loud with words to me. I know it's just a crazy concept in church. Okay? I want you to share out loud with words with me. When is the most appropriate time to take the lights down? Ready, go. January 1st. And some more? July. There we go. July. New Year's, after the New Year, January. So, besides July, that's the latest one I've heard. Okay? Besides July, I think on average the most common time or most appropriate time to take down the lights is middle of January, beginning of January. And I know that's kind of an unspoken rule, but I just made you speak it, so don't judge each other based on what your neighbor said, okay? Now, what I failed to mention during this whole process was how many houses were in darkness during the Christmas season. What I failed to mention was how many houses don't put up any decorations at all. And by my estimation, and this is me just spitballing it based on observation for the last 24 years, I would say that only 1 in 4 houses are lit up during the Christmas season. And that may even be a bit presumptuous. And this is indicative of the darkness in the world we live in. You can't go anywhere or do anything without seeing, feeling, and sensing the darkness and evil that lurks in our world. Each day, the news is a reminder of the present darkness in the world we live in. Each day, the pain of a lost friend or family member resides in our hearts. Each day, the pressures to conform to others and the ways of this world squeezes in on us. Each night of the year, especially February through November, is a visible reminder of the utter darkness that encompasses our world. Darkness is the absence of light. Darkness fills every crack the light can't reach. Darkness defines our world. It's been that way since Adam and Eve took part in eating that apple. Darkness is all around. This is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people loved darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. Did you hear that? People loved darkness instead of light. It's literally translated that men long for and take pleasure in darkness. Because why? Because their deeds were evil. Hear me. We live in a world of darkness. There's no denying it. Sin has entered the world and morality has been tainted and darkened. It was true 2,000 years ago, and it's equally true now. But thank God for the light. Thank God the light has come into the world. John 1 says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God." And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning the light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Now, books have been written squarely on the first 3 verses of this book. And rightfully so. I mean, they are profound. They are beautiful. They are eloquent, and they so wonderfully display our God and his coming. They depict the beginning of time and Jesus as we know him in complete deity and unity with the Holy Trinity. Yet what I want to focus on today is not the first 3 verses of this passage, but the few that follow in the next chunk. By understanding those first 3 verses, we can have a foundation for what's to come in verse 4 and 5. With such a perfect description of God that's given, John brings it to life. He animates it into something that we can grasp and take hold of. He says this, "In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind." That life was the light of all mankind. God gives us light, and he becomes light, and he became light for us to see. The Greek word used in this passage is phos. It's defined as light, but its usage, there's 3 different ways it's used. It's used as light, a source of light, and radiance. And oh, I love that last one, radiance. Radiance. The light is so powerful. The light is so bright. It exudes radiance. Have you ever thought about our God as a radiant God? Have you ever thought about Jesus and his coming as radiant? Picture with me the glory of this. God coming to this earth as a little baby, shining his light. Now we already know that babies give off light and energy and joy to everyone that's around them. But God himself, the light coming, that's radiant. Picture with me this. Jesus as a child, giving off light only the way that children can do. Then picture with me the teenage Jesus, the kids I work with, giving off light in fun, exciting new ways as they're growing and maturing, just like Jesus would have done, growing and maturing into the man that he became. And then you have the young adult Jesus, who was wise as can be, someone probably my age, but wise beyond years, coming into the light that he was going to give, the true light to the whole world. And then finally you have the Jesus in his ministry, and the Jesus of this passage in John 9:5, where he says, "While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." Jesus radiates light from the beginning of time to his coming here on earth, through his 33-year ministry, all the way to his glory in heaven. Now, how wonderful a light he truly is. In fact, whenever I use the word light today, okay, please note that phos was used in each instant, that Greek word. Therefore, think of a light so bright that it just oozes radiance as it shines. Understand that the light is our God, and it is Jesus shining on our lives. So point 1 is this. Jesus radiantly shines light into our lives. Jesus radiantly shines light into our lives. The passage continues on. It says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." I said earlier that darkness is merely the absence of light. And hence, if there is an ounce of light, it cannot be completely dark. And no matter how hard darkness may try to overcome it, to overcome that light, as long as there is light, it will never be completely dark. Now raise your hand if you've ever been in utter darkness before. Absolutely no light could be found. Raise your hand. Okay, look around again. Most of us in this room, I would say, probably 80%, 90%. Maybe you were in a basement with no windows, no electronics, and all of the lights were turned out. Maybe you were in the mountains or in nature, and there wasn't a star in the sky or moon to be found because the clouds covered it up. Or maybe, and this is the one where you really feel it, and I felt it in my life, where you are underground or in a cave or in a tunnel, and absolutely no light could seep through anywhere. That is utter and pure darkness. Maybe you were in a work environment where violence is the norm and degrading people is natural. Maybe you were in a family or a relationship that was abusive and there wasn't any way out. Maybe everyone you love turned against you or was taken away from you. Maybe you were caught in an addiction and you couldn't find any way out. Maybe, for some of you, that isn't past tense. That is utter and pure darkness. And if you've been in that place, if you've been in that darkness before, it's tough and it's scary. And the thing about darkness, being in pure darkness, is that you're always searching for the light. Think about your eyes for a second. Many of you just raised your hand, most of you raised your hand, that you've experienced darkness, pure darkness in that way before. And in that moment, while experiencing pure darkness, our eyes, your eyes, were constantly adjusting and seeking to cling to some form of light. Our eyes were constantly searching for one little ounce or speck of light to appear. We were constantly searching for some way out of darkness. And literally the only way out of darkness is to introduce it to the light, whether it's physical or spiritual. Because where there is light, darkness has not overcome it. In fact, I'll take it a step further. Where there is light, darkness cannot overcome it. Darkness cannot overcome the light, because darkness is the absence of light. Christ, who is our light, shines radiantly in the darkness. He came into this dark world and he lit it up. He's gone into the dark places, and he still goes into the dark places, and he brings hope. He came to set the verdict straight that there is life, love, and light in his name. He provides hope as he's overcome the darkness. Now, the theologian and minister Alexander McLaren comments on John 1:5 this way. He says, John takes the fall for granted, and in John 1:5 describes the whole condition of things, both within and beyond the region of special revelation. The shining of the light is continuous, but the darkness is obstinate. It is the tragedy and crime of the world that the darkness will not have the light. It's the long-suffering mercy of God that the light repelled is not extinguished, but shines meekly on. Where the light of Christ is, nothing can overcome it. Nothing can extinguish it. Nothing can put it out. It shines on and on and on and on. God shines, for he is the light of the world who has come for us. Excuse me, I have a cold and I need some water for my throat. Let's pick it back up in verse 6. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning the light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not receive him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. I'm sorry, the last verse said recognize him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Now in verses 6 through 8, we learned that there's only one true source of light. And no, it's not electricity. Okay, no, it's not the sun, S-U-N. No, it's not the stars or moon. It's the creator of these things. The Word, as we read about in verses 1 through 3. The Son, S-O-N, Jesus. John was not the light. He only came as a witness to the light so that all may believe in him. However, the light came, and when it came, it didn't come as expected. People didn't recognize it. It says in verse 10, he was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. They didn't recognize the light of Christ, even though he made the world and was in the world. They weren't expecting it. They weren't prepared for it. The world was so wrapped up in darkness, it forgot about the light. It didn't know how to recognize the light, the true light, for what it really was. And the same is true in 2019. Many of us aren't prepared for the light because we are so wrapped up in darkness. I kind of compare it to the feeling of being rudely awakened in the morning by either your spouse or maybe your kid or maybe your parent. All of a sudden, you're sleeping, and then they turn on the light and say, "Get up!" And you open your eyes and you're squinting at the light like, "No! Go away!" Well, we all know that feeling, right? Don't pretend you don't know that feeling. We want to go back to sleep, cover our eyes with the pillow, or close them, make sure that that light doesn't come through. Because why? Because we were comfortable in the darkness. We were comfortable in the darkness, and we wanted to cover our face back up and get comfortable again. The light was something we didn't want to see. Both when Jesus came to the earth and now in this present age, I think we are a people who are trying to squint and wake up to the light. We don't want to recognize the light or even want it to come. Yet here it is. In fact, about 2/3 of the world still prefer to be in that darkness and want to go back to sleep. They want to get back to the comfort of darkness and not recognize the coming of the light. And point 3 is this, and this is the big one. Don't get comfortable in darkness. Don't get comfortable in darkness. Now, many of us in this room, there's a few of us, a lot of us, who have embraced the light. That's probably why we're here. We've embraced the light, and we've become a witness to it. You know, once your eyes get adjusted, there's no turning back from the light. It's here to stay. Leave that darkness behind. You're now up, you recognize the light, and you welcome it. Because the light symbolizes hope, energy, truth, a new day, a new beginning. It symbolizes Jesus Christ, the light of the world. And when you've seen the light, when you've seen that radiant glory of God, nothing should ever hold you back from showing that light. Because the light I'm talking about, it can't be covered. It can't be buried. It can't be hidden. It can't be putting a pillow over it. You can't close your eyes to it or cover your face from it. The light, once you recognize it for what it is all you want to see. It's all you care about, and your life is run by that light. The book of Luke reads this way. No one lights a lamp and hides it in a jar or puts it under a bed. Instead, he puts it on a stand so that those who come in can see the light. Now, how obvious, right? How obvious is this? We don't light a lamp and then go and hide it. We light a lamp in order to see and to guide our way. In fact, when darkness is lurking around, we need the light to guide our way. We need the light to see, because without it, we're lost. And that's why we put it on a stand. Because if we hid it, then others around us who don't have the light would be just as lost and are just as lost. We use the light of Christ to help guide our every step and path. Now, over in youth group, we meet once a month, the first of every month, in what we call our elevation squads. And it's where we get together in small groups based on our age. So we have 2 groups in high school and 2 groups in middle school. And we take the time to meet in small groups and really dive deep into who Christ is. And this year, we have names for each of our groups. And this year, the name of my group that I lead is a 6th through 8th grader group, and they're awesome, and I have the privilege of leading them. What's the name of our group, Zach? Shout it loud so everybody can hear. Lighthouse. Lighthouse. Okay? The name of our group is Lighthouse. And the reason why I called our group Lighthouse is because I derived it from Psalm 119, 105, where it says, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. And the reason I named our group this is because we want the light of Jesus Christ, and we have seen the light of Jesus Christ be a light unto our feet and a light for our path. We want the Bible to be a source of our knowledge and truth. And we want others who join our group, who have not received the light yet, to be exposed to the light, this powerful light that guides their life. We want Jesus to be the lighthouse that brings them home into eternity. Because it says at the end of this passage, yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. When you recognize the light and then in time receive it, your life changes. You not only become a child of God, you become a light bearer. And that is a big responsibility. It is our calling to be the light of Christ in this dark world. The light is too powerful, and it is sourced in Christ, who is the light, to hide it. So don't hide it. Let it shine. Don't hide it. Let it shine. Now, we're only given that right to become children of God and light bearers by one name, Jesus Christ. and his work on the cross. While we were in darkness, Christ came to give us hope and salvation. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us so that we may believe and trust in him and have eternal life. Verse 9 says, the true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. And that's what we celebrated these last few weeks with the Christmas season. And on this day of Epiphany, we remember that Christ came into the world, full of darkness and sin, to give light to everyone who should receive it. And I wrote a little poem about that. I'm going to share it with you. It's a light the Magi traveled weeks to see. It's a light that changed the course of history, of humanity. It's a light that prevails when darkness surrounds. It's a light that knows no bounds. When you're feeling alone, scared, and betrayed, and the world has left you in such dismay, the light keeps on shining, no matter the timing. It doesn't stop, it doesn't blink, it doesn't go away. The light is here to stay. It has made a way. Just lift your weary head and pray. Because you can't hide it, you can't contain it. If you have it, it makes you glow. It came to the world so that you could know that you are free and you are loved. It came to the world so that you can show that Jesus is the light from above. Jesus is the light that shines so bright, it radiates through the dark and night so that you just might receive it. So will you, on this day of Epiphany, receive the light of Christ in your life? Will you believe the testimony concerning the light? I'm not concerned if you've had a relationship with Christ your whole life, for 10 years or 1 year, or if you don't have one at all. I'm asking, as a witness to what Christ the light has done in my life, if you want to receive in full the light of Christ in your life, either again or for the first time. Because Jesus says this in John 8:12, he says, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. I want that light. I don't know about you. I don't want to be in darkness anymore. I hate being in darkness and the evil that surrounds me. This world we live in, it tries to drag us down, beat us up. In fact, the darkness of the world has dragged many of us down right now. It looks different for all of us, but we all face a certain darkness. So let's ignite the light and let it shine through every area of our lives. Let Christ fill us up so that we can't help but be shining bright for others. Not just a portion of the year or even a designated slot of time each night. Let Jesus Christ shine bright as if your life depended on it. And the only way to rid the world of darkness is to introduce it to the light. Now, while I was buying Christmas lights a few months ago, all I could think about was being a house that radiated light in our neighborhood. And for the past few months, those lights and the cross I created on my roof did just that. I think we have a picture of it. Yep, there's the picture. Okay? Not only did they give off a cheery light for our neighborhood, but they gave me a simple hope and joy during the Christmas season. That cross, those lights were a reminder of why Jesus came to this earth. And my wish is that it did the same for those in the community and beyond. You see, buying those Christmas lights back in November, even though they were expensive, it wasn't a problem. It was worth it. It was worth it. Shining your lights, both literally and figuratively, for Jesus is worth the cost. It's worth the time. It's worth the sacrifice. And let me tell you something. It's not just worth the sacrifice 2 months of the year or a designated slot of time each night. It's worth the cost every single day of the year. Shining bright for Jesus is worth it. Shining bright for Jesus is worth it. And as this Christmas season has come to an end, I know it won't end in my life. In fact, I just went to the store and bought some more Christmas lights for the next season. And even though the Christmas lights are going to be coming down off my house soon and off yours, we know that the true light will never come down. It will never die out. It will keep on shining from now into eternity. And that's what's so great about Jesus and the opportunity that he gives us. Each day is a new opportunity to shine the light wherever we are, in school, at work, at home, with our families, with neighbors, with friends, with loved ones, to light up our neighborhood and to radiate who Christ is through every pore of our being. Now I want you to stand with me as I read this last passage. I'm going to read these words, and I'm going to declare them over you as a reminder of who you are and who God has called us to be. The Apostle Peter writes, chapter 2, verse 9 of his first book, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. You are God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." He has called every single one of you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Did you hear that? You are specifically chosen by God as his special possession to shine his marvelous light. He's called every single one of you out of darkness, the darkness of this world that we live in, into his light. You are a beacon of hope to this world who so desperately is searching for some ounce of light. Make it your job, your calling, your every inner desire to shine Jesus to everyone around you. It doesn't matter if it's the Christmas season or not. As God's chosen people, we live in his wonderful light through every breath we take. It's my calling just as much as it is your calling. Radiate the marvelous light of who Christ is. Let's pray.